Hi and welcome to another Frank Answers Your Questions. You may have already seen the videos Controlling Your Day 1, 2 and 3, and this is Controlling Your Day number 4. Just to bring you up to date with where we're at, Controlling Your Day number 1 was all about starting off with a list, call it a to-do list, for want of a better word. Then Controlling Your Day number 2 was all about prioritising from that list and looking and saying what are the priorities. And then number 3 was all about scheduling appointments with your tasks based on them priorities. And number 4, which is what this video is covering, is all about, well, okay, it's okay to schedule these tasks as we talked about in the last video, but how do we manage the day and how do we manage interruptions and everything like that? And to be honest with you, there are numerous ways that people interrupt and everything, and this isn't going to give you every answer, but if you can take one or two things away from this, it is going to be worthwhile. So first of all, we're now at the stage where we've scheduled our day and we've scheduled our tasks. Now what we've got to do is try and control our day to avoid as many interruptions as we can. Now we're never probably going to avoid all interruptions because interruptions are part and parcel of what we do in many jobs. But it is important to try and manage them as best as we can. And the first way to try and manage interruptions is to try and find time during a day where you can find what I call prime time, quiet time, where you don't get interrupted, where you say to your colleagues, look, I'm working on this, I need 45 minutes, will you look after this, will you look after that, and I just need to get my head down and get this finished. Or maybe you might be able to go and work in your boss's office, or maybe you might be able to work from home, or you may be able to work in a meeting room for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. But this is called prime time. It's a bit like where you have the do not disturb sign in the hotels and you have that literally wrapped around your head saying, leave me alone, do not disturb me, I need to get this done. The biggest problem with prime time is, that it's a give and take. So if in your organisation you're looking at finding quiet time, you've also got to accept that other people will be looking for that as well. But it is important, in any company it is important that there is an element of prime time to get things done. Because otherwise our day can be just shot away. So number 1, the first thing about trying to manage your day on step 4 is wherever possible, try and find quiet time or prime time. Number 2, let's say that you can't, or let's say that you can't find prime time for all the day, then you are going to have interruptions that you have to manage. And I know there are numerous ones, but I'm just going to cover off a couple of points on a few. On the first one, your colleague interruptions. The colleague that walks up to you, the colleague that comes up to you if you're in an open plan office, or the colleague that comes up to you when even if you have your own office, etc., etc. And what can you do? Well, there are a couple of things you can do. Number 1, you can make a decision. Do I want to deal with this now? Do I want to deal with this later? Or even is it my job to deal with it at all? And you can just ask right at the outset, okay, I'm going to give you a minute or two to just tell me exactly what it is, and then we'll decide whether we can do this now, or if not, maybe a bit later. In most scenarios, if you're going to kind of pass it off and do it a bit later, then you're better off to say to them, I will come to you. And basically, a trick I used to use many years ago was I would say to somebody, I'll come to you at about 4:45, because I knew that most people wanted to be out by 5. So we could get stuff done in 15 minutes that might have taken an hour before. So the other point of going to them is it's easy for you to walk away. It's not so easy when they come in, if you have an office environment and you're in an office and they sit down next to you, for you to move them. But it is easier the other way around on that. The other thing is just use a bit of body language. When somebody comes in, just say, I'm just not sure whether I have the time, and look at your watch. And that, by doing that, is saying to somebody, look, I'm under pressure. I'm really under pressure. So there are a few different things you can do. You can also kind of, look at other areas where you turn around and say, look, I just really can't manage this at the moment. Maybe somebody else might be able to help you, or whatever the situation is. Or maybe you can say, look, I'm going to give you 5 minutes, but that's all I can give you because I have a call coming in, or I need to make a call, or whatever it is, and find a reason to split it into a certain time. Because we can't just, and nobody's asking you to be a robot, by the way, nobody's asking you to go into work and not speak to colleagues and not help colleagues or whatever, but we have to find a way of managing it. And if we don't find a way of managing it, then what is going to happen is our day is just going to be shot with interruptions all day. Probably in recent years, the biggest curse for most people is email. Okay, we'll be sitting at our desk, we've decided this is our priority, we're now working on our priority for the day, whatever our priority is, and all of a sudden, ding dong, a new mail comes in. And as they say, curiosity kills the cat. So what we tend to do is we stop doing what we're doing and we look at the new mail. Now, I know this is job dependent, what I'm going to say next, and I understand it is depending on your job role. But for most people, they can probably get away with turning off the auto notification and checking their emails so many times a day when they're ready to check them. So if you can get into the habit of managing your emails as opposed to your emails managing you, it helps. So, if you say, right, I'm going to check my emails when I first get in at 9 o'clock, then I'm going to check them again at 10:30, then I'm going to check them at 12, then I'm going to check them at 3, rather than responding to each email. Because what will happen if you don't is that you'll be sitting there after deciding this is the most important thing I can do today, and then all of a sudden, ding dong, a new email comes in and we're gone. And the problem isn't the time it takes to look at the email, the problem is the momentum that we lose in getting back into the task that we were doing. So I would ask you to please try and manage your emails as opposed to your emails managing you. And when you do manage your emails, always remember there is only 4 things you can do with an email. And it's the very same as years ago when we'd say, touch a piece of paper once. It's the same principles. Number 1, can I get it done now, straight away? Can I answer that email and get it done? And if so, and you want to do that, do it now. Get it done. Get it finished with. Is it something that I need to do, but I really can't do it now because I haven't A, got the time and it's going to take time, or B, I'm waiting for information from somewhere else or whatever. And if that's the case, then you put it into a file and you use that file as part of your to-do list and bring it forward and everything like that. So it's a do it later, do it again. The third thing is, can somebody else do it? Can I delegate it? Can I pass it on? And the fourth thing is, can I delete it? Does it need to be actioned by me? So there's only 4 things. It's called the 4 Ds. Do I do it now? Do I do it later? Do I delegate it? Or do I delete it? So when the key thing is that we need to manage our emails as opposed to them managing us, and it really is important. So step 4 of controlling your workday is that word control. How can you stop others from getting in the way of what you're doing? And you need to look and find ways to do that. Always remember, if you take anything away from this session or anything away from the exercise about controlling your workday and time management, the question you need to keep asking yourself all day long, is what I am doing now helping me to achieve my objective? Or is it the best use of my time? And if you can answer that and you know why you're doing it and why it's the most important thing, then great. But if you turn around and say, well, I just had an email, so I have to respond to it, that is not the correct way to work. It's all about effective decision making. Is what I'm doing now the best use of my time? So we've really got to go on to the next video, which I'm going to cover, which I'm going to kind of put together for you, is one about planning, organising, implementing and controlling, which is really all about controlling your day. So if you can get good at the 4 key areas of controlling your day, then you'll be very, very effective. But always remember, work on the highest priority tasks as much as you can and know why you're doing that. Again, this is Frank from Premier Training. Hope you took something from that. Look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you.